with Drog's Captain. We saw him earlier in the feature match pit actually get his one loss to a black-white Wesco token deck with a bunch of tokens backed up by Vault of the Archangel. Yep. On the right-hand side, we have Matt Kurtin, a guy I've known for a while as he's a Bay Area grinder.
Giant shirt kind of gives it away.
Yeah, like nothing but giant shirts kind of give it away. Associated, friendly with the Channel Fireball crew up there, and decided at the last minute to make the drive out here because I ran into him in the hotel yesterday evening
at X1. That sounds like so far it's a pretty good choice. Matt's running red-green aggro, which we saw on the right-hand side of your screen last time.
His build is very different, and he's been working on this quite a bit. He's cut the Hell Riders entirely out of the deck, feeling that it just made the mana base way too bad, and the card was low impact even if he could play it a lot of the time. He's moved to a second Daybreak Ranger in the main deck, backed up by 4 copies of Green Sun Zenith, so that could be a factor in this match against Prosak's mostly fire base. He also has 2 copies of Art Trail and 3 Brimstone Volleys main as well, so he has a little more burn, a little more reach than a lot of the conventional red-green aggro lists that we've seen.
Yep, the additional Green Sun Zeniths probably are going to be pretty important, and the Daybreak Ranger definitely important in this matchup especially.
Yeah, a huge breaker. Also, it just gives the deck another turn 2 play off of Bird or an Elf, which the deck is often lacking. If it doesn't draw a Strangleroot Geist, now he has between Daybreak Ranger and Zenith for either another mana creature or Strangleroot Geist. He has a bunch of plays on turn 2 if he ramps on 1.
Yep.
So I know that he played a variation of this deck in Salt Lake. I'm not exactly sure what his results were there, but I know that he was at least running deep into day 1. He might have bubbled out or whatever, but this deck he has worked on for quite a bit.
Yeah, and 2 Garruk Relentless, which were not present last round.
Yep. So Curtin mulling his mulligan here, and both players look like they're going to keep.
Matt will lead off with Forest into Birds, and we've transported ourselves back to 1997.
Yeah, a simpler time. Soon to be ruined by some blue spell. Yep, there. Now we're back in the modern era.
Cataxian Probe shows Daybreak Ranger, Sword of War and Peace, Green Sun Zenith, Strangleroot Geist, and Arc Trail for Matt.
No second land, and Prosak's build has 2 copies of Gut Shot, so we're going to find out real quickly if there's one in his hand. Unfortunately, he dodges that bullet. He just drew, I believe, Huntmaster of the Fell, so now he's waiting Strangleroot Geist and Zenith thing for another mana creature. Looks like we're going to go with the Geist. Prosak hand appears to be 2 more lands, a Ponder, and some white spells. Going to start with a Ponder.
And that card's about to get a lot better.
I believe there's a Delver, a Leak, and a land.
And they're all going away. All right, so Adam ships it away, waiting to see what he can pull off of a reshuffle.
Another huge upside about this match is Matt's been bothering me for a feature match for quite a while now, so we can get that out of the way.
You can pretend that it was all your choice?
Yeah. And a second Ponder. Looks like a Delver and 2 lands, so I'm assuming this will be going back as well, unless we're tight on mana, which it does not appear to be an issue. No, we're going to keep those lands.
Yep. That Seachrome Coast is going to be coming down next turn.
Oh, he was missing white mana. Okay, that's why he needed to keep that one. So it appears that Curtin's drawn a Mountain here, which frees up his hand a little bit. So now he has the option of either Daybreaking or Zenithing for 2 for another Strangleroot Geist, or playing his Sword.
Matt thinking it over.
There's the land, and yep, we're going to Zenith for 2.
And he's going to try and get out ahead here.
Yep. I think a lot of players would have had the instinct there just to run their Daybreak Ranger, but on an empty board like this, I think it's better to get your Geist out there. A lot of the Delver deck's tools are a lot less effective. Mana Leak and Vapor Snag most evidently when those cards become a lot less effective when the Delver deck's on the back foot. So Kurtin recognizes this and just wants to get a clock going.
So Seachrome Coast comes down, which I believe leaves a Glacial Fortress in his hand, which will come down on tap next turn.
Looks like he has Swamp and Glacial Fortress left. So I don't know if he has what the white cards are. I would assume they're Lingering Souls.
Yep, and there's one of them.
Cast them.
And looks like he's going to need a lot more of those Spirit tokens.
Yep. So Kurtin's just drawn another land, so now he has Huntmaster of the Fells or Daybreak Ranger or Sword as angles for this turn.
Please come up to the main event stage.
He's got to kind of debate now whether or not he wants to allow Prosak to trade his spirits for half of the Strangleroot Geist.
And Prosak declines to do so.
Yep.
Two-headed giant, round 2 pairings have been posted in green paper.
Now it's Huntmaster versus Daybreak.
Have been posted in green paper. Please find the matches.
This is a much better play if you are concerned about Vapor Snag, because Kurtin's board is like basically does not care about Snag right now. If he just plays, his Daybreak Ranger there, if Prosak has something like Snag plus Drogskull Captain, he's actually back in the game.
Yep.
So Kurtin's just happy to keep the pressure going for the time being.
Now was Sword something that should have been thought about there, or especially if you're thinking about Snag, it doesn't offer any protection?
I like just landing your threat right there. If you're worried about Snag, then spending your time and energy trying to get Sword online is actually is a worse angle to take than just playing your Daybreak Ranger if that's your concern. So. Yep.
Adam looking at his board, trying to figure out exactly how he wants to work with this.
Another factor here is the Cataxian Probe. Since Matt knows that Adam knows he has Sword in his hand, Adam has to play around it regardless. Mm-hmm. It's always a threat that Prosak has to be worried about. So, assuming that Prosak is like leaving mana up for Leak or Snag or something like that, it just behooves Kurtin to make a different play because he knows since he knows Prosak knows. He can sort of get his value out of it by just making him play around it and doing other things with his mana that don't play into the same cards that the Sword plays into. So Prosak in a fully defensive position now. He's just going to leave all of his guys back. The other issue is he knows about Arc Trail, which also makes his attacks a more challenging proposition. Like he needs to leave some guys back to block because he's falling behind on the board. So we're going to leave Huntmaster back.
Matt has a Copperline Gorge, so he's going to be in. So
looks like we traded off.
Wolf. Everybody dying.
Yeah.
Strangleroot comes back. Copperline comes in tapped, and he can play into Mana Leak here if he wants to, or he can just sit back and. I'm ahead on the board.
Let his Huntmaster trigger and take out the remaining Spirit token.
James Wett.
And we're going to see the Vapor Snag, unsurprisingly.
James Wett, who's your draft? Number 9.
And that's significantly less devastating than it could have been.
Yeah. So Kurtin doing a very good job so far of not exposing himself to a devastating Vapor Snag. That Snag was okay for Adam, but obviously you're not thrilled about the Huntmaster retriggering. There's a Dungeon Geist that's going to lock down the 3/2, and a Delver.
And Prosak has now tapped himself out, which gives Matt some opportunities to.
This could be a spot if he wants to land. He could land a Sword right now if he wanted to.
Now, if you land a Sword, where do you want to put it?
Well, you have to put it on your untapped Geist because the bird. You need the bird for mana. I don't really like that play very much, just because it's basically Kurtin's entire turn and Prosak gets to chump block with his Delver if he wants to. So this is just a much better advancement of Kurtin's board.
So Kurtin arc trails away the Delver and the last spirit from Adam's first Lingering Souls, and then follows up with the Daybreak Ranger. Adam gets in with the Dungeon Geist. Plays a Delver.
And this is going to be Souls and Flashback Souls. So Adam taking a
and he's
defensive...
actually going to hold back because he still has that mana leak in his hand. So he didn't flash back the Lingering Souls, which is probably should be a good key to Matt that he needs to be playing around a mana leak.
Problem is his hand's not really conducive to doing that right now. He has like multiple big threats. So this turn I'm pretty sure he's going to play his Land of War Elf and figure out among the worst of his cards which one he's going to allow to be run into a mana leak. Prosak falls to 6. Doesn't look like he's willing to block.
And Daybreak Ranger is going to start just picking off those spirits.
Yeah. Gives him a lot of control over the way the damage race gets managed. He's going to lead with Huntmaster, I assume. Yep, that'll induce a mana leak. And then we're going to have...
And you'd think that the elf would come down here, but he doesn't.
Oh, no, there it is.
There it is. That's a good reminder to always take a second look at your hand before you pass the turn.
Daybreak Ranger guns down one of the spirits.
Matt takes 4 from the other spirit, Dungeon Geists, and Adam flashes back Lingering Souls. Matt draws and surveys the board. And that's a Garruk Relentless.
Strangleroot Geist is going to send.
Now that's interesting because he would have been able... Oh no, the Delver's still there as well. Nightfall Predator is going to come on out from...
So now we can start getting that Dungeon Geist out of the way.
Yep.
And Kurtin's trying to is playing pretty conservatively here, which I like. The long game absolutely favors him. He just has bigger draws, and Daybreak Ranger is going to generate a ton of value over the long term. So as long as he protects himself from getting punked out of the game in like 1 or 2 turns from here, he should be able to whittle Prosak down. So now his 3/2 Geist is... It's back online, so he has a little more pressure now too to work with.
So now he does have that Garruk in his hand, which provides basically another kill spell.
Yeah, the issue is just, again, he knows Prosak just revealed a mana leak, so he could play around it by just leading with... He has a land that he's just drawn, so he could lead it off, but it looks like he's trying to get Sword online.
So Prosak will play that mana leak just to keep the sword offline this turn. It's unlikely to counter it unless he wanted to switch plans, play the land, and push down the Garruk, which it looks like he may do.
Although I don't quite understand, if you're going to do that, you could just play a land in your Garruk.
Yeah.
And then nothing gets leaked, but... Again, Prosak willing to follow 2 here. He realizes that he cannot possibly win by blocking and trading off. He has to try to win this game quickly.
Yep.
So it's a 6 line and Garruk.
And unless Adam has a card that I don't think exists in this format, he is going to be picking up his cards.
He's conceding, yeah. And that's an example where Prosak's deck doesn't have any of the equipment, the swords, or the pike that you associate with a lot of Delver builds, and that's a place where this is a matchup, or at least this is a game where the lack of that hurt him, because Kurtin was able to sort of attrition and whittle down his various threats. And in those matches where that sort of stuff is happening, it's important to get sword on a guy, because you can't win. It's very hard to win by doing 20 with your creatures, because the red-green deck is so good at picking off your guys, blocking, gumming up the board, gaining life.
Just
with
making it hard.
Yeah,
to
you need
damage.
something big, and the lack of swords meant that, or pike or anything like that, meant Prosak didn't really have anything big to find. So going to sideboarding here, I assume that we are going to see a Dissipate out of Prosak's deck. He has a copy of Dungeon Geist that I think he wants, and he has Saving Grasp, which also seems good for this matchup given how much removal Kurtin has available to him.
Do you think that the Celestial Purges will come in if he's assuming that he's playing a more traditional red-green?
Well, for Huntmaster?
For Huntmaster?
Yeah. I don't think actually Huntmaster is the card you're the most concerned about if you're on the Delver side of things. You have Snag to sort of mitigate it a little bit, and since you're all in the air, what it's doing on the ground doesn't impact your damage racing very much. So I think of the cards that Prosak's concerned about, I think Huntmaster is fairly low on the list. It doesn't really have any utility elsewhere, so I would be surprised to bring it in.
Now, we know that Matt's not running Hellrider, but would thinking about that be something that Adam might be reaching for those purges?
It certainly factors in. If he's not familiar with Kurtin's list, then certainly that could weigh in on things. But I think Celestial Purge is probably, even if you have Hellrider, it is probably closer to good and not great.
So unless he was looking at his list and saying, "Man, I don't want this card,"
it would have to be.
bring it in.
I believe it has to be a case of actively not wanting something.
I want to get something out for something that's going to be good. On the other side, how about Matt? What are we thinking might come in here? You got two aggressive decks, so I would think that the Batterskull would probably be
Batterskull's
kind of a trump card.
Yeah, Batterskull's okay. The issue again is just like you need to configure your deck as much as possible to be robust against Vapor Snag and Mana Leak. Like those are the primary power tools that you're trying to fight through. Batterskull matches up very poorly against those cards. Now, if it resolves and there's no snag involved, it can win the game on its own. But I think Kurtin needs to sort of minimize his exposure to those cards.
All right.
So I'm not a huge fan of it there. He might want Thrun, because Thrun obviously
doesn't worry too much about
those
Vapor
cards.
Snag.
Is a good threat to ramp into.
There's also sort of Body in Mind, which does confer the protection from blue.
Right. I was talking to Kurtin outside a little bit earlier. The Body and Minds are actually more for the mirror. He told me the conventional wisdom is in the mirror is that you want Feast and Famine. But by the time that your Feast and Famine is actually online, most of the time players' hands are close to empty anyway.
Yeah, and once that hits the board, it's pretty easy to just play empty-handed.
Right. So the Wolf is valuable. Also the Mill 10, because the other deck can be gaining life, or you are just putting your sword on your bird or whatever. Winning by milling is according to him actually not an unreasonable thing. It actually comes up. So that's the other big difference from his list than most of the conventional lists. Is he's actually much higher on Body and Mind than most of these lists are.
All right.
So but it doesn't really seem like he has too much for the matchup, other than having 2 copies of Thrun.
Yeah, with the 2 copies of Daybreak Ranger and the 4 copies of Green Sun Zenith in the main, he may actually be somewhat pre-boarded for this matchup.
Right. I feel like the card he would probably want least is, I feel like Sword of War and Peace, and is probably the dodgiest card. Given Prosak's list, a 6 Slime is not very good against him, but it's possible that he's still hedging against a piece of equipment, so he might leave a 6 Slime in if he's not familiar with Prosak's list. But the red-white swords are pretty unimpressive, I think. They definitely have their moments of being good, and certainly since Prosak's deck has more of a spirit theme to it, you can more easily imagine a scenario where Prosak goes, souls, flashback, souls, go. You go red-white sword on a guy, pull you out of the water. But again, the fact that it doesn't line up very well against Mana Leak and Vapor Snack for the most part means it's not.
Yeah.
It would be a card, if I was on his side of the matchup, that I would be trying to get out of my deck.
Sure. And so you might see the 2 Sword of Body and Minds and the 2 Thruns come in for it, because he does pack the full 4 Sword of War and Peace in his main deck.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't like having not played the matchup. I don't know where you prioritize pro blue versus pro white, because Prosak has defensive tools in both colors. So I feel like you would probably not want War and Peace. You would not want Body of Mind because Snapcaster Mage and Lingering Souls makes it actually pretty bad to mill Prosak. So if you're on the fence, that could be enough of a reason to not want to bring it in.
Yeah.
Mill him for 10 and turn over a Lingering Souls plus like a snag that he then gets this Snapcaster or whatever.
Yeah.
It's, you know.
Well, you can Snapcaster snag all that you want to. You're not hitting the...
Sure, but you're definitely chumping. You're
Souls.
Well, you're definitely chumping with the Lingering Souls that you're flipping over. So
certainly.
Any deck that's willing to play Thought Scour is a deck you should probably not be trying to mill.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Up until that last card, it's not very good.
Right.
All right, so it looks like we've had mulligans on both sides, I believe.
No, I think they were just shuffling.
No,
now we got a mulligan.
Shuffling for a while. And there's one.
Curtin
Matt,
looks like
on
he's
the other
happy.
hand, is content with his hand. Up a game.
Yeah, I believe he made the drive out with the GP Salt Lake champion, Shahar Tanar, and I don't know, the drive he said was something like 12 or 14 hours. And I did one of those back in the day. I drove from Jersey to Grand Prix Tampa, and I got into 2 separate incidences on the way down there that required the police.
Uh-oh.
They were just both traffic violations, nothing actually serious, but the weekend was like really, really rough. Like we all lost a bunch and all these like horrible things happened. And then you had to do the drive home, which is actually the disaster. It's not so much the 20-hour drive there, it is the 20-hour drive back.
After
your entire car failed to make day 2.
Any time that you are driving to someplace, it's always easier than driving back. Doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter what you're going to.
Right.
It's always easier to go to something than it is to drive back from it.
That was an event where I was disorderly enough that I was kicked out of a Waffle House. For those of you familiar with Waffle House, not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
All right, so Prosak keeping his 6, starting off with an Evolving Wilds and a Gorge and an L from Kurtin. Prosak finding an island.
All right, so Matt's off to the start that he wants, but I'm not sure that's exactly what Adam wants to do. But that's what you give up when you start.
Yeah, this is the cost
with 3 colors.
This is the cost of 3 colors. Although the shuffling actually has some utility with Ponder. I don't believe Prosak is playing Thought Scour in his build, but there are reasons you would want to shuffle your deck around and when you have Ponder in your deck. So it's not a total cost. There are situations where you can keep a Ponder with 1 you want and 2 you don't want, because you can draw your 1 and then shuffle afterwards.
Yep.
But
so puts those back on and says, I like shuffling. Let's do some more of that.
The searching and shuffling is the one thing about the Legacy that turns me off to the format. There's a lot of this going on. Given the amount of turns of Magic you're often playing, there is the rounds go on for an awfully long time.
Fair amount of fetches and such can spend a fair percentage of your time with your deck in your hand. But I think I'm really a fan of the format. I think it's a very complex, very diverse format.
It is a small critique in the scheme of things.
Adam draws for the Ponder, plays a Seachrome Coast, and still missing that Delver.
And it's so important to get off to a fast start against the red-green decks.
And Matt is faced with the decision of further developing his mana base or further developing his board.
Looks like he's got a land and another bird in his hand.
Yep. It looks like he's going to have the bird. All right, back over to Adam.
Draws another land. And a Lingering Souls from Prosak.
And that is what he wants to do on turn 3. Unfortunately, he didn't do what he wanted to do on turns 1 and 2.
The issue is that the red-green deck, pound for pound, is way more powerful than the Delver deck. If both players are actually resolving their spells, the place where the where the Delver deck can get an edge is by sort of the tempo and efficiency of the game. And when you're just saying basically go on turn 1, go on turn 2, you lose a lot of that edge.
Yeah.
So.
And Matt clearly comfortable with his mana situation as he throws his elf into one of Adam's spirits. Dungegeist locks down Huntsmaster. And he gets even more comfortable with his mana situation.
Yeah. So this is another question is, if you just pass and shoot the token, then if Prosak has we're not even, this is going to cast Brimstone Volley. One of his less conventional card choices coming to bear.
In comes the Wolf for 2 and a tapped Copperline Gorge. And I'm pretty sure Matt's currently holding 3 lands.
Fortunately, no, he has a Metamorph in his hand.
Oh, okay. There we go. So 2 lands and a Metamorph.
Fortunately, when you're flooding out, Huntmaster has the ability to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yep.
So we're going to see a Snapcaster and a Ponder, and I believe Prosak has a Swamp in his hand, so I assume this turn is going to be finished off with a flashback of Lingering Souls, assuming nothing crazy happens.
Unless he's worried about what's going to happen next from Matt. I think it kind of has to be.
Yeah. Does not have much of a choice here.
So Adam has been very fond of Ponder into don't like that very much, shuffle it away.
Yeah. Prosak is a big Ponder fan in general. The man casts a lot of Ponders.
So Swamp, Lingering Souls as predicted.
And in for 1.
And we've dropped Matt back down to 20. Now, there's not really a good target for Metamorph. He could make another Wolf and make a Huntsmaster, but as we saw last round, a Metamorphed Huntsmaster really doesn't do a whole lot.
I mean, he's gonna, if it's his only action, this is what he's gonna do.
He's got a whole other Huntsmaster. That's much better than a Metamorphed Huntsmaster.
Yeah, again, and Kurtin's able to actually erase Lingering Souls this way with a combination of the clock and the life gain and the ability to sort of spin his Huntmasters around by not casting spells.
Yep. So Delver and then Lingering Souls, Lingering Souls.
Yep.
And Adam says, I would like to race.
We've had fun at side events today, but we're going to be closing down soon. If you'd like to play in one more winter box or draft, come on and get registered right now.
I know Kurtin's not.
Sign-ups at 6 o'clock.
So he's just going to say go and try to whittle down a little bit of Adam's force right now.
So Matt will take down, I would think, a Spirit and the Delver.
Yeah. I think there may be a little bit of confusion about how the if he has to target before he knows if the Delver flips or not, but the answer to that is yes.
Yep. Active player, non-active player. So that Delver trigger was on the bottom of the stack. And Adam says, okay, let's fight. And let's see, looks like another Lingering Souls. He may have something else to do because does not seem intent on flashing that back. Even
he might just be bluffing Mana Leak.
At this point, I'm not sure what Matt's gonna cast that he's gonna be able to effectively Mana Leak.
Right. Well, yeah.
I suppose Sword of War and Peace and Equip would be held off by Mana Leak, but and Matt's drawn Strangleroot Geist, which gives him another aggressive creature.
Fortunately for him, Kurtin's got like a lot of time right now. Even though Prosak's developed his board a fair bit, he's actually not threatening lethal for 3 turns.
Matt trying to decide exactly how to do this. And the Geist came down, gets picked off by one of the spirits.
And Prosak's falling to 1 here.
Taking 10. There's not a rally the peasants in there, is there?
No. Nothing of the sort.
And so 3 is going to allow Matt to...
I think he's debating about... I think he's going to cast his Metamorph, and I think that he's debating whether or not he wants to tap the bird for blue mana, not take 2, or to leave the bird untapped, so he could potentially block against a piece of equipment that Adam could have on his turn. And it looks like he's...
Now, this is interesting because he wanted that second spell, but did you see what it copied? Because if he'd copied the Geist, he could have played it before combat.
I don't think it copied. I'm not sure what actually got copied.
And Matt's in a pretty overwhelming board position here. And Matt
Adam
should have gained 4 when he flipped over.
Yeah, I think there's some confusion. I think Kurtin tried to copy a Hummaster of the Fells, but when it's a Ravager of the Fells, it actually doesn't get the flip power. It's just locked in.
It's just a
it's just
a big 4/4.
Yeah, I think that was what the confusion was.
I think they're trying to figure out exactly what happens.
Commander number 5.
And the answer is
At long last,
You have whatever the backside is.
Yep.
Commander number 5.
The answer is not a whole lot because Ravager of the Fells is a card that only triggers when it flips to, when it transforms into. And
do not metamorph your opponent's Delver of Secrets, for those of you watching at home who are not familiar with that interaction. You have a flashback. Prosak
so
with a...
seems to be trying to make just enough to survive, and he's going to send whatever else
he needs
can.
Well, he needs a... Yeah, he goes up to 3 here because he just Phantasmal Image the Hummaster. So he's going up to 3, and now it's just an issue of how much can I attack with while still leaving enough back to block, because he still needs to end this game somewhat quickly.
He's got to end it next turn. The other question is, all Matt has to do is pass and flip both of his Huntsmasters and just hit Adam for 4, unless Adam has some spell to stall that out.
Yeah, so he basically has to bluff snag here.
And I'm not sure that bluffing snag is going to do anything. Matt may just naturally not have anything to cast here.
Yes, that is also a possibility.
And so there's 7 untapped spirits, a wolf, and a phantasmal image that is a copy of Huntsmaster.
Looks like we're seeing a sea of chump blocking here from Prosak.
Looks like the image is going to block the 4/4, and there's going to be just a whole bunch of people headed to the bin, and not a whole lot. Now that's interesting because with the image being 2/2, if he was going to chump block that way, he could at least kill the Strangleroot Geist if he'd put the 2/2 in front of it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's all that relevant because he's pretty much got to win here.
And there's a concession, yep. The Hummaster of the Fells becomes Ravager of the Fells, and that is lethal.
All right, so
pretty straightforward victory for Kurtin here.